Can the state reserve government jobs beyond 50%? Can caste-based reservations be justified under the Constitution? These were the pivotal questions in the landmark judgment of Indra Sawhney v. Union of India, delivered by a 9-judge bench of the Supreme Court of India in 1992. This case, often referred to as the Mandal Commission case, is one of the most significant decisions regarding reservation policy in India. To understand the context, we need to go back to 1979, when the government of India established the Mandal Commission, officially known as the Second Backward Classes Commission, led by B.P. Mandal. The commission's goal was to identify socially and educationally backward classes in India and recommend measures for their advancement. In 1980, the Mandal Commission submitted its report, advocating for a 27% reservation for other backward classes, or OBCs, in central government jobs and public sector undertakings. This was in addition to the existing 22.5% reservation for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, bringing the total reservations to 49.5%. However, the implementation of this report faced delays and remained unaddressed for a decade. In 1990, Prime Minister V.P. Singh announced that the recommendations would finally be put into action. This decision ignited widespread protests, particularly among students, and sparked intense political and legal debates. Numerous writ petitions were filed under Article 32 of the Constitution, challenging the constitutional validity of the government's decision. The Supreme Court was faced with several critical legal issues. First, could reservations be made solely based on caste? Second, was the 27% reservation for OBCs constitutionally valid under Article 16(4)? Third, could the total quantum of reservations exceed 50%? Fourth, should the concept of the creamy layer, referring to the economically advanced within backward classes, be excluded from reservation benefits? Lastly, were reservations permissible in promotions, not just appointments? The petitioners argued that caste should not be the sole criterion for determining backwardness, claiming that the Mandal Commission's recommendations violated the equality principle under Articles 14 and 16(1). They cautioned that exceeding a 50% reservation limit would distort merit and disrupt constitutional balance. Conversely, the government contended that Article 16(4) explicitly allows for reservations in favor of backward classes, asserting that caste is a relevant factor in identifying social and educational backwardness. They argued that reservations are a form of positive discrimination necessary for achieving substantive equality. In a landmark decision, the Supreme Court, by a 6-3 majority, upheld the validity of the 27% reservations for OBCs under Article 16(4). However, the court imposed essential restrictions and clarifications. It ruled that while caste can be a starting point for identifying backward classes, backwardness must encompass social and educational factors, not solely caste. The court established that the total reservation quota must not exceed 50%, except in extraordinary circumstances. It introduced the concept of the creamy layer, excluding the socially advanced among OBCs from reservation benefits. Furthermore, it deemed reservations in promotions unconstitutional unless specifically permitted by a future constitutional amendment. The majority opinion, delivered by Justice B.P. Jeevan Reddy, emphasized that affirmative action must be balanced against the principle of merit, cautioning that excessive reservation could undermine administrative efficiency. The impact of the Indra Sawhney judgment has been profound. It set the framework for reservation policy in India, influencing how backwardness is identified and implemented in public employment. The recognition of the creamy layer exclusion has become a cornerstone of OBC policy. The 50% ceiling on reservations established by this case has been a topic of debate in subsequent cases, such as M. Nagaraj and Maratha Reservation. Additionally, the court's prohibition on reservations in promotions led to the 77th Constitutional Amendment, which introduced Article 16(4)(a), allowing for reservations in promotions for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. In essence, the Indra Sawhney v. Union of India case struck a delicate balance between social justice and meritocracy, acknowledging historical disadvantages while instituting safeguards to prevent reverse discrimination. This case remains a foundational precedent in Indian constitutional and administrative law.